And we are joined now by Justin Locke, Managing Director for Rocky Mountain Institute's RMI's Africa Islands and Southeast Asia program. Welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining us. How do you see the key challenges by your organization when it comes to advancing the energy transition?
Yeah, well, first, it's a great question. And I think you have to look at the facts first, right? Moving forward, power systems globally will be increasingly more distributed, increasingly more utilizing clean energy as opposed to fossil fuels for generation, and increasingly more resilient. However, the current system is centralized and based on a fossil fuel model. And the challenges of moving to that more distributed model, which we need to do particularly for developing countries that require much more energy density in order to spur economic growth, is that the whole system is arranged around the old system, right? Whether it be our supply chains, whether it be the business models that utilities and distribution companies utilize, all of that has to be detangled, right, in order to move forward. A perfect example of that is in Africa, mini grids, so renewable mini grids, so a combination of primarily solar plus storage, maybe some diesel backup. On average, developers pay 30% more than the global average for those hardware components. And that's because the supply chain does not exist at scale, right? And so these are the issues that we have to overcome in order to realize the energy transition business opportunity. And there's many solutions that we've provided that can help address those issues. But more importantly, it's about, how do we aggregate these projects to bring to scale so that we can unlock these supply chains that, again, have historically been orientated around fossil fuel, where there's been significant amount of subsidies and development over time that is preventing the business case for renewables from being realized.
Could you perhaps flush out, your most ideal case for a roadmap in order to reach that end? What do you see as the most relevant next steps when it comes to making progress on the energy transition?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I think we have to address as a global community the fact that, nearly 800 million, potentially 1 billion people do not have reliable access to electricity, right? I mean, I think that's a first step in realizing an equitable, renewable future. And that requires, and as we know, distributed energy is the optimal way of energizing and providing electricity to those without access. And that requires first, like I said before, aggregating projects. We can't have small projects very dispersed in around a large geographical area. We have to aggregate projects in order to get the requisite scale to attract that commercial investment, coupled with the fact that we have to develop more turnkey manufacturing solutions, right, that address these specific hardware components that are required by these developers to provide that energy access. And we have to provide the necessary capital flows, right, that unlock the financing opportunity that are currently stuck in the international system. Coupled with that, we have to build a matrixed renewable distributed grid on top of the existing fossil fuel grid until it becomes obsolete, right? And identifying where the business case makes sense. I think Nigeria is a perfect example. In Nigeria, the comment that you often hear is that there's over a million, isolated diesel generators running at any given time to meet the electricity demand that customers require that the centralized grid is not providing. So by providing a distributed architecture on top of that, understanding where the demand is, right, and developing the right business model to address that energy demand need, we can make those types of personal diesel systems obsolete, right? And so again, it's about finding the business case that works for a specific system and unlocking that with the appropriate financial flows.
Justin Locke, thank you so much for joining us to share that perspective, that expertise. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah. Happy to be here.